Hello, welcome to an all-new Marvel cast, Explosion Network's hub of all things Marvel. We're going to talk about everything MCU and beyond, from Avengers and Defenders to Amadeus Cho and Zax. My name's Ashley Hobley. Joining me this episode, the ultimate Ciaran Marchant.
Hey, it is I, here with my stretchy pants.
Good to know. Also joining us, the astonishing Dylan Blight.
You won't like me when I'm hungry.
Alright, let's get into it. This episode, we're going to be talking about the black sheep of the MCU, the Incredible Hulk.
I've been alone for a long time. Not because I want to be, but because until I solve this problem, I have to be.
Your target is a fugitive from the U.S. government who stole military secrets.
This is the location. Snatch and grab only, live capture.
Take him.
As far as I'm concerned, that man's whole body is property of the U.S. Army.
You have to get as far away from me as you can. Go! There are aspects of my personality that I can't control.
Target is in the overpass.
And when I lose control, it's very dangerous to be around me.
Released 2008, directed by Louis Leterrier, written by Zak Penn, starring Edward Norton, Liv Tyler, Tim Roth, Tim Blake Nelson, Ty Burrell, and William Hurt. Bruce Banner, a scientist on the run from the US government, must find a cure for the monster he turns into when he loses his temper. Ciaran, when was the last time you watched The Incredible Hulk?
I can't remember. I honestly can't. Maybe when I've attempted to do a rewatch or something of the MCU, but man, it's it really is the forgotten child of the MCU, really.
Yeah. So I take it not a fan.
No. It's not that I'm not a fan. When we spoke about Iron Man, we had the same discussion in terms of Rhodey in that character, where we saw that version of that character and how we don't think he would translate very well forward. I feel exactly the same way about Ed Norton transitioning if he was to take the role into MCU. This is in the rest of the MCU. This is our one and only Hulk film in the MCU. Prior to this, there was the Eric Bana Hulk movie, which I always forget. Is that actually linked to this movie in any way, other than because I think Liv Tyler is in that movie? Off the top of my head.
I don't. No, she's definitely not. The only thing is, obviously, they skipped a lot of the Origins element.
Yes. Because
they did a lot of that in Hulk.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I never...
They skip it because they had just done it in a movie, but it's not considered a proper sequel. It's more so like audiences just saw that, and we'll just recap a lot of that in the opening and reshoot.
It's like what we hope they'll do with Batman,
whatever,
but they never do.
Yeah, okay. They never do.
Yeah.
I think overall, I actually think this is a fairly good Hulk movie. In many ways, it has some really good moments that take a lot from the Hulk comic books. I think in terms of continuity, because this was the odd one out or the weird, this movie kind of goes to this approach where half of it's like, yes, we're part of the MCU, and the other half of it's not playing to be that way. So there is some continuity issues in some of this movie.
Well, I mean, it's because it came out the same year.
Yeah, I know. It came out the same year. I know that. But it was like they didn't... Where Iron Man, you could kind of see that movie was made and directed with full kind of intentions of there's going to be an MCU. With like a decent kind of building blocks that there's going to be an MCU. There's stuff in this movie that I'm like, that doesn't really make sense. Like the army having full access to S.H.I.E.L.D.'s databases and stuff at one point, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Why is S.H.I.E.L.D. this involved with this stuff? Or just bits and pieces that are just where it's like... I always find it hard to be like, okay, Ed Norton's Hulk leads into the Hulk that we meet at the start of Avengers, and it doesn't really line up for me personally, I guess.
Like, actor-wise or whatever, it doesn't, but they still continue the storyline of, like, he's been, like, trying to tame and control his anger, and that's what, of course, leads to the iconic line of, secret is I'm always angry, Cap, or, you know, whatever it is. So, like, it works. Like, there's little slivers that makes it feel like it's the same connected tissue, I feel. Like, especially when they go find Banner at the start. When they find Banner in Avengers, it feels like a continuation of this film, I think.
Yeah. Kind of, because,
it's-
again, he's living in a hut.
Kind of.
Yeah. It feels the same. Yeah, I mean, I suppose we can rejudge that because I haven't watched Avengers in a while, but from memory, I feel like I remember watching Avengers in the cinema and feeling like it.
Thing
Like,
is,
obviously, he plays Mark Ruffalo plays the character a lot differently, but I feel like they, in that first like scene when they introduce him, they're like, this is to show that, yeah, it kind of feels like the way that Edward Norton's character was living or whatever. So it's like that similar sort of thing to say, hey, it's connected. But I know we'll get to it later, but obviously I think the thing in this film that's most connected is just Ross. It's like Ross is the most connected character from this film
100%.
that continues into the future films, but other than that, it's like...
To cut back to the talk about Hulk, the Ang Lee film, Jennifer Connelly played Betty Ross, not Liv Tyler. Also, Sam Elliott played Thunderbolt Ross in that film. Fun fact. Dylan.
Which I don't... By the way, side note, just to get out of the way, I actually think that movie's... Like, it's weird to watch now because the special effects aren't that great, but I did watch it. It was on TV, weirdly, like a couple of years ago, and I watched it, and I'm like... I kind of appreciate it for what it was trying to do, which is to bring comic books to life. Like, it does the whole panel shit and whatever else. And Ang Lee was trying to tell this, like, super serious, or pseudo super serious take on
Hulk, yeah.
the only thing
Hulk,
I always
yeah,
remember
yeah,
is the Hulk being super green. Not just because it was reminding me in a recent freaking VF Artists React from Corridor, but also just in general. I'm always like, Hulk was really, really green in that movie.
It's like a dark green. So Dylan, when was the last time you watched Incredible Hulk, and what did you think on this rewatch?
I think the last time I watched it is when I brought a duo Blu-ray pack of Iron Man plus Incredible Hulk, which would have been, I think, what I brought prior to Avengers. So I think I probably watched it at the same time, like roughly when I talked about watching Iron Man. So been a while. I actually think this movie's okay. Like, it's like a solid 6 to me, or something like that. I think it's got like pretty good performances. I think I think everything up until like the final act is pretty good. Like, it's not Iron Man good, but it's kind of playing around with some cool things. I think Edward Norton gives a good performance. I think he makes a good Banner. I like the whole idea of him just kind of being on the run, like the start of the movie, just feeling like this, you know, like especially the escape sequence when the dudes come in for the first time, he has to like climb out the window and he's like on the run and whatever else. And I like how they play with Hulk in this movie to make Hulk truly feel like a caged beast that's trying to escape out of Banner. I think they kind of nail that aspect. And in a lot of ways, I think that, again, is sort of important. It plays into the MCU continuation of Hulk, where, like, in this film, he's literally a caged beast that when it escapes from within him, he can't remember, like, the majority of what's happened. And then when you look further into the franchise, as Banner gets better at becoming one with Hulk, then he ends up literally becoming the Professor Hulk by the time we get to Endgame type thing. No, yeah, I think the biggest fault of this movie is just that I don't think Tim Roth is particularly suited for that character, and it just comes off super cheesy. And I mean, I like Tim Roth because I like Quentin Tarantino movies, so I kind of have to like Tim Roth. But like in this movie, he's just... It feels like he's trying super hard to be tough, macho armor dude.
There's
it's ridiculous.
The scene that gets me is him, like after his first lot of the super soldier serum, where he's trying to take on the Hulk, and it's just like, I guess it's supposed to be showing, oh, you're nowhere in the Hulk's level or whatever, but this guy is like realistically shooting at him or like doing flips and running up things, and like they're like, oh, I think he's got it this time, and then it always makes me laugh the scene of him getting kicked into that crack,
tree.
Just kicked into the tree. But at the same time, I'm like, this feels weird. Like this character just doesn't feel like it has like a sense of logic or like kind of awareness to the situation,
especially towards the end where it's just
power
like,
hungry. Yeah,
I mean, his whole character arc is literally he gets a taste of power, and now he just wants it all. And he doesn't just go from wanting a taste of power to he goes to full fucking I'm gonna, I don't know, go destroy a bunch of buildings and fight things because reasons. Like, I don't know. I hate the end of this movie. I guess
he all of a sudden starts hating the general and stuff, and you're like,
yeah,
why?
Yeah.
As soon as the Abomination is introduced, I'm like, whatever. Like, I could piece out the movie at this point. I think the first half of this movie is quite good, and then it kind of just goes downhill after a certain point. Also, fucking Tim Blake Nelson is quite weird in this movie too. Where he's trying to do a normal accent and like hide his southern twang or whatever, but it sounds weird.
Yeah, I honestly can't remember when I watched this film last. It was probably 2009, maybe. I think I've only watched it once. I didn't even watch it as a rewatch going to Avengers because there was no time. It was a very short time before the screening. It's fine. It's I think Edward Norton does an interesting Bruce Banner.
There's a lot of confidence to him that's kind of just, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know
he's still got hope that maybe he can. Yeah. I think that might be the biggest difference. That this version thinks he can still get rid of the Hulk, whereas the Mark Ruffalo version has kind of accepted that he's living with
the Hulk.
A lot of his stuff really good. There are some. I feel like there's so many like dumb, silly things throughout the film, especially the blood thing at the start. I'm like, how did you not notice the blood in that bottle? It's like, and then when he sent that blood sample to Mr. Blue, I'm like thinking, there's no way that the way you package it's getting there.
Like the all the stuff with sorry, this is jumping ahead in the movie a little bit. This shit me so much. They literally have first scene where they're like, right, we can't use credit cards, we can't use mobile, we can't do anything. We can't use any of that. The moment we use any of that, we're screwed, they'll catch us. Literally, like a scene or two later, he plugs a USB drive and opens up like an email account and sends files, and you're like, huh? What? Why?
Email wasn't on that list. So,
by the way, shout out to this movie, like most Hollywood movies. Anytime someone's on like the dark web where they're just randomly tapping.
I love that every single computer he goes to, it happens to have that app.
Has the icon for like the encrypted chat, and you're like,
yeah,
what?
Fucking, it's great. Love it.
But yeah, I think I like Tim Roth. I think it's like he's over the top. I can appreciate that. But yeah, obviously it doesn't really fit with anything in the MCU at all. I think Thunderbolt Ross is also quite over the top in this film. He is quite settled down and not as cartoony as in the following films.
But the thing is, he's probably settled because of this.
Because he's gotten closure.
You could think. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't love the King Kong elements of this film, with Betty constantly trying to sue the Hulk.
It's interesting that, like, in this movie, Bruce is convinced that the Hulk is a different being, like it's a different creature completely, whereas generally it's a sense of, no, it's just a different form of Bruce Banner. Like, it's just very... It's interesting that he's just so convinced throughout this whole thing that is a different kind of creature, a different kind of being, where every other kind of version...
I mean, I think that's how it was in the comics for a period, similar to how there was a period where Thor was Thor was a different character to whatever he called this, like human person. Like he would transform into Thor. Yeah. And it's like that personality took over kind of thing. So I guess it's playing with that.
Yeah. And there was like few other like dumb, like I know the purple pants thing is like an inside joke to the TV series, but that you
It's a
didn't need
meme,
to
yeah.
put that in there.
Shout out to Lou Ferrigno, who's in it, I guess.
Yeah, he was in that, and apparently he did the voice as well.
Well, he did because this is still the actual motion capture for the Hulk is done by somebody else. The only thing that is apparently Ed Norton is they did facial capture for Ed Norton for the Hulk, but it doesn't look like him at all.
No. They might have Ed Norton's got such a unique face that I can't imagine that being injected into the Hulk. And then the other thing, he says Hulk smash at the end, but they never call him Hulk at any point in the film prior. So how does he know?
Yes, they do.
No, some random person
No.
on the internet that calls him a Hulk.
Well, he does in that news report.
Yeah, but the Hulk never saw
a
that,
kid. He's
so he
like,
didn't
"Some
know to
kinda
call
Hulk."
himself the Hulk.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know.
It's so many. It's just so many weird choices throughout the film. Yeah. It's a hard one to like, I think, more than anything else. But let's get into building the MCU. Very short list this episode. We've got Bruce Banner, the Hulk, played by Edward Norton in this film, debuted in The Incredible Hulk May 1962, created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Obviously, with only performance by Ed Norton to date. Interestingly, apparently a major reason he didn't come back is he didn't like the edit of the final film and then proceeded to not do any promotion for The Incredible Hulk, which is a pretty bold choice, I would have thought.
He's an actor's actor. He ain't here for this bullshit CGI fest.
Absolutely. But yeah, obviously very different Hulk, very focused on like heart rate, which I felt like it's very
Keep him calm. Fucking meditation.
But that
man.
doesn't. That's the thing, because then it's like, everywhere for the rest of the MCU, it's established that the Hulk comes out via anger, but then they have the moment where they get a bit frisky, and it's like, oh no, we can't get any friskier. I'll turn into the Hulk. It's like, well,
Maybe he won't. Maybe he's just afraid he will.
No, but that makes sense because his heart rate also goes up when he's scared, which I think he is a lot of times more than it potentially he's angry as well. So, yeah, I thought he was a good Bruce Banner. But yeah, obviously disappointing. He's not seeing any more of him in the future. Unless they...
Yeah, I think he's the best part of the movie, is that he makes a really good Bruce Banner, I think. Especially one that's on the run and trying to cope with the inner beast. So, yeah, he's definitely the best part.
Then we've got General Thaddeus E. Thunderbolt Ross, played by William Hurt. First appeared in The Incredible Hulk #1, May 1962, created by Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. Are you guys surprised that he is like the one character from this film that's had legs?
no, because Ross appears in other things as well, in terms of normal Marvel kind of connections. I guess Betty Ross doesn't appear much elsewhere outside of the Hulk. Abomination, I think Abomination just doesn't rock up again because he just was done kind of weirdly. Like, even the fact that they left him alive at the end of this, which I always remember him getting killed, and then I'm like, oh no, he didn't kill him. Okay.
No, he's in that same vault where Dwayne Johnson takes Jason Statham at the end of Fast and Furious.
Ah, that makes sense. Cool. So I guess Ross kind of makes sense that he goes through. I will say I really dislike the end credits scene of this movie, where Tony Stark comes in to talk to General Ross and be like, we're building a team, and I'm like, first, why the F is Tony recruiting for the Avengers? Because where we find him in Iron Man 2, he's just like, no thanks.
But I think the story was
also,
they were building a team, but it kind of fell through, and then Tony was disinterested after that.
Also, I'm pretty sure chronologically, Iron Man 2 is taking place at the same time as Incredible Hulk, I think, from memory. Like, as to, like, surely by Iron Man 2, he doesn't
But
care.
even Iron Man 2,
like,
at the end of Iron Man 2, they tell him, no, you're not going to be a part of the Avengers. Maybe we'll get you into Consult at some point.
We'll talk about next week.
Find out next week. But I'm pretty sure, like, they say Iron Man 2 takes place at the same time as this, or I don't know. pin in that, I guess.
Yeah, because obviously several years later that he comes back, not till Civil War. So,
it takes ages. Yeah.
So nice. And
It's cool. I think the most important thing about him getting back, it's not that he's the best Thunderbolt Ross you could have ever got, or like his performance is the best ever. I think it's just important they got him back, because then it is the one solidified thing that says, hey, Incredible Hulk, I know we've said for years that it's part of the MCU, but now's when they actually brought him back, it was like, here's your proof that movie we treated as part of the proper MCU canon. Yeah, it was like the one thing they needed to do. Yeah.
Well, kind of spinning off that, would you want to see anybody else from this film come back? Nah. Obviously, they were pushing pretty hard for Tim Blake Nelson to become the leader at the end of the film. Whether that could be something they could potentially do if they ever do another Hulk film down the line.
I don't think they will. I think the only person that I'm like, yeah, I'd like that is Liv Tyler, but that's just personal because I like Liv Tyler. And I think she's actually alright as Betty Ross in this movie. I don't think she's terrible.
I think she has like cheesy lines like with Paltrow in the first film as well. In Iron Man as well, so. I would be opposed to someone else coming back if they fit down the line, but it definitely looks like they're not planning to do any Hulk film down the line. And Hulk is currently in a very odd place that I can't imagine what they're going to do with him next.
I think they just found out that Hulk is better in a co-situational movie than like the leader, the headline of the movie. And they're going to stick to doing that in the future. It's probably smart.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Yeah. Obviously, we've got the She-Hulk series coming up. Is Bruce Banner going to pop up in that? Or any of these characters, maybe? Maybe that's where one of these characters pops up.
That could be a possibility. I think that's more realistic than a movie.
Yeah. All right, time for our Stan Lee sighting. Stan Lee, this film, plays an old man who gets sick drinking Brazilian soda. Contaminated Brazilian soda. Not one of his most glamorous roles in the MCU. Yeah. And that's been this week's Stan Lee sighting.
You didn't say he had a heart attack and dies.
I don't think he dies.
It's probably just off tone because reasons.
He just gets gamma radiation. I assume the idea is he gets gamma radiation.
No, I thought the idea was that the blood was so like strong and like it gave him just such a thrill rush more than he was expecting from that drink that it gave him a heart attack.
Oh,
is what I've always took it as, and because he's like, and he like.
I mean, it's a long stretch, I think, to go from a guy dying because he was drinking a drink to Bruce Banner's in Brazil.
I think it's secretly promotional material to say energy drinks are bad, and we should be asking who paid the movie.
They're not bottling energy drinks. It's just plain soda. It's just colored fizzy water, to be perfectly honest. Probably.
Pepsi paid them off.
All right.
Anti-Coke.
Dylan, what was your most marvelous moment from The Incredible Hulk?
It's hard, isn't it? I would stick to what I said before, which is the escape sequence, that whole thing. I think that's just my favorite sort of action scene or whatever in the movie. I think that's a well put together scene. I think it's the only good action scene in the movie I actually like. I think it also helps because when he runs into the construction factory or whatever the hell it is, and there's just so much use of the darkness inside there to help with the Hulk. It just makes the Hulk seem like a like stalking horror movie villain type thing where he's just throwing stuff around. And I kind of appreciate that more. And I think that works to make the Hulk scarier than, of course, the next time we see him is just broad daylight, big open area, like go crazy, you know what? Yeah. So I think that's my favorite scene in the movie.
Ciaran, what's your most marvelous moment?
Before I go into my most marvelous, I just remembered Ty Burrell's in this fucking movie, and it makes me laugh every time I see it. Like, oh yeah, he's the boyfriend.
He's the boyfriend who gets. sidelines.
Hulk cut.
I didn't want to say it, but yes.
Fuck, poor Tyrell. But anyway, my favorite. I actually really like the scene of Hulk and Betty sitting under the rock during the thunderstorms and stuff.
The very King Kong scene.
I think very King Kong scene, but I think also it's a very Hulk scene in many ways, where it's showing that kind of the human side of the Hulk a little bit, where it kind of shows that it's just not this monster filled with rage. And I like that the Hulk has that kind of side to him. I think it's going to be very easy for the Hulk to be written as just this rage-filled monster that smashes everything, but he has that duality to him that I really like, and I'm glad that it was shown in that kind of form in this movie.
Cool. My most marvelous moment, I'm going to say the start of the Hulk and Abomination fight. I feel like they set that up really well. It's an interesting setting. It gets off to a good start, and then once they
why is it an interesting setting? It's like
in a
city.
Harlem, like
but
in front of the Apollo. You know,
the only thing I wish is they let more build up to the fact that let Bruce Banner be dead for a little bit longer. Like, let him be like stuck in that fucking hole in the ground for like
a couple more seconds.
Minutes.
It's like
a couple
everybody
more seconds
get upset.
before. Get upset, make it, and then have him like
Pop
burst
up,
out of it. Like that would be way cooler.
Yeah, and they even redo that moment later on in the in the MCU. I feel like
but in like a way more comical role in Ragnarok.
In Ragnarok, yeah. But yeah, once they start getting on the rooftops, it's bad. All right. So this week's comics recommendation, I'm going to recommend Incredible Hulk for the 1999 starting series, issues number 24 and 25. Storyline is called Always on My Mind. That is a fight between Abomination and the Hulk. I don't want to get into too much spoilers around the storylines around that, but apparently it's very emotional and that kind of thing. Written by Paul Jenkins, drawn by John Romita, so you know it's going to look good. You can find it on Marvel Unlimited or in the Incredible Hulk Past Perfect trade paperback. So we've taken on your feedback. We will be reading some of these comic recommendations beforehand for the future. So thanks for your feedback. All right. So let us know what you thought of the film, The Incredible Hulk, and what are your comics recommendations? On Twitter, follow us. You can find all our Twitters over at explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. For the next episode of our Marvel Rewatch, we'll be discussing Iron Man 2. So make sure you watch that and join us next time for another all-new Marvel cast.